Hey, it's Paulina here, iHeartRadio Chicago, and I'm sitting here with the one and only Charlamagne the God.
Hey.
What's going on, iHeart Familia?
What's happening, iHeart Mafia? We out here.
In these streets.
We out here.
So I wanted to say congratulations on your second book.
Thank you very much,
You are,
Paulina.
Oh, thank you. I'm going to shake your little hand here.
I appreciate you.
I want to say thank you on behalf of those who are suffering from anxiety.
Okay.
Like myself.
You got anxiety?
I do.
How bad is it? Is it crippling?
It's not as severe as people that I know, but it took me 26. It took me 26 years to acknowledge the fact that I do have anxiety, and people around me also do. I mean, being born and raised in an immigrant family, like, we're taught that these things don't exist.
Yeah.
And you mentioned that in your book, in a sense too, that growing up, you around your peers and your friends, I mean, it was all kind of just not spoken of. It was
Absolutely.
like you keep it moving.
Yeah, you got a handle on yours much earlier than I did. I didn't get a handle on mine until I was 39. And I think, one reason is because growing up, I never knew what that was. When I would have those panic attacks, I always thought that something was wrong with my heart. I always thought I was having like heart attacks or having heart murmurs or something to that effect. Or I just thought I was pussy, for lack of a better term. That's the term we used to use when we was young to, define somebody who probably was soft or weak or, that's what I thought I was. But I didn't want to tell anybody that, because if you tell somebody that, then you become a victim. Then you're food in the hood. And so it's like 9 years ago, 2009, had one of those same feelings. Very bad panic attack. I got fired from radio for the 4th time. I was back at home living with my mom in South Carolina at 31, 32 years old. My daughter was like 2. My now wife was living with her parents. And I just had like a massive panic attack to the point where I thought I was having a heart attack. So I went to the doctor. Doctor told me the same thing he always tells me, like, your heart is fine. And he was like, do you suffer from anxiety? And I was like, no. And he was like, sound like you had a panic attack. I was like, a panic attack? And he was like, are you stressed about anything? And I was like, hell yeah. So in my mind, I'm like, okay, all I got to do is get another job.
Right.
And I'll be fine. And that's what happened. I got the Breakfast Club. And 8 years later, I'm not fine. I'm still having those panic attacks, still having that anxiety, so I decided to finally get a handle on it.
Sometimes I feel like we can fix our problems, right, with a new job, new opportunity, more money, whatever that may be, a new house. But for those that, I would say suffer from anxiety, and from those who don't really know where to go, how did you know it was time to maybe see a therapist or see outside help?
When I looked around and realized that life is great, but I'm still feeling the way that I feel. And when you're the go-to person for a lot of people, you often have to ask yourself, who does the go-to person go to? And it's like everybody that I was going to, like my circle, the people around me that keep me on point, keep me sharp, they were all basically telling me to go to therapy. It's almost like, I'm a God-fearing man. So when, you pray, and sometimes if you listen, close enough, God will send you signs. And like, I had people like that are close to me saying, you need to go see a therapist. You need to go see a therapist. Or I remember having these conversations with like Amanda Seales, and Amanda talking to me about how men don't want to be vulnerable, and how a lot of us are damaged and don't want to talk about it and don't try to, get help for that damage. And I was like, damn, that feels like me. So that's what made me just decide to start going to therapy. Plus, when I had this real brief moment of serenity and peace when I was on vacation last year, I was like, how can I hold on to this all the time? And that's when I decided to say, I'm going to stop flirting with the idea of therapy and just try to go. I mean, it can't hurt, right?
When someone mentioned that first to you, the word therapy, and growing up, I don't know if you felt the same way, that idea or just that word was sort of like a privilege. I felt like all the rich white kids went to therapy. That's kind of how I always saw it, or at least knew of. When you heard that word for the first time, what did it really mean to you? Did it mean like I need, be great to get that outside help, or were you like hesitant?
I think at first, when you first hear it, it makes you think that something is like really wrong with the person, like the person is off. But then the more you talk to like really successful people, they'll tell you that they go to therapy or have gone to therapy. And I like to study the habits of highly successful people. And it was just one of those things that I felt like I wanted to add to my repertoire. But I'm that type of guy anyway, though. If you tell me there's a way to be better in any way, shape, or form, whether it's physically, mentally, spiritually, emotionally, if you recommend me a good book, if you recommend colonics to me, if you recommend certain things for your diet, I'm going to try it all because I'm just always trying to be the best me. So a lot of people that I knew who was successful were going to therapy, and I was just like, why not?
You mentioned physical health. Growing up, I know like that was always a big thing, even if like we're in gym class or whatever that may be. How do you think that like today, because I know you're a father of 3, how do you think that kids today can learn early on, so they're not our age and so forth, learning about mental health? How can they learn in school? How can they bring that into the curriculum? I
think it takes adults to start being the adults that we needed as kids. When you have the information, you got to pass that information on. If there's a resource out there like therapy that can help these kids keep things organized, and nowadays they need it more than ever, especially with this social media monster out here. If you have that type of knowledge of this resource, it is your duty to share that information. Like, I can't talk about something that's been beneficial to me. I mean, I can't do something that's beneficial to me and not talk about it. And I think adults need to do the same thing. I was wondering that when I was writing this book. I was like, what did the guidance counselor do in school? When I was growing up, I don't even remember my guidance counselor's name. Like, I don't remember ever sitting down with a guidance counselor and them really trying to get to the bottom of my behavioral issues. Right. It was always disciplinary things like, oh, put them in the skip program. And I remember I got caught with alcohol in school, and they had me in like this thing called skip, where you be around in a circle talking like you're in a drug rehab program. It was never anything beneficial, getting to the root of the problem. It was even like one time they were talking about putting me on Ritalin and all kind of stuff like that. Like, there was nothing that ever got to the root of the problem, and the root of everybody's issues is always mental. Like, everything is mental. Like, your thoughts definitely become things. So that's the start of everything. But there's nobody in school that tries to get to the heart of that. Like, it's everything else around this.
That's a good point. No, I mean, when you went to the guidance counselor, it was mostly like, you're right, to be in trouble.
You get in trouble. Discipline. Like, it was never anything to do with the mental. So I just think we got to share the information. Like, like I love when I go to these different colleges. Like, I was at Howard Thursday, and this was new to me because I never went to college, and they were telling me how they get free therapy on campus.
Yeah.
I didn't know that. Why isn't that resource provided for all of these kids from grade school on up? Like, everybody needs somebody they can talk to that can help them dig a little deeper, because there's nothing like trying to unpack 40 years of bullshit. Trust me, I know. Okay, and I feel like therapy it's like having a closet that's just like full of clothes, just junk and everywhere. And it's like you go in there with a box and you pack up the things that you don't want, and you throw it out or give it away, and then you organize the stuff you do want to keep, and then you got room to bring in new things. And I think once you organize that closet once, it's easy to maintain, and I feel like, if you wait too long, your closet will be mad junky. Like me, I'm still packing up boxes for Goodwill. You know what I'm saying? Right now, I'm still packing up the boxes for Goodwill. I haven't even gotten to okay, this is what I want to keep. Let's put this here. I'm still packing up the boxes for Goodwill. So I feel like the earlier you start, the better. So
how do you know when you find the right therapist?
That's a good question. Me, I had a thought, and my thought was I wanted to talk to an Asian woman. The reason I wanted to talk to an Asian woman because I felt like she would be the most neutral. No prejudices. She wouldn't share any of my prejudices. She wouldn't have any of my biases to the world. She wouldn't understand my experience as a black man in America. So the things that I would be talking to her about, she would only have to digest and, tell me how she feels from a real neutral place. But if you think trying to find a black therapist is hard, try to find an Asian woman. That's very difficult.
Interesting.
So I ended up sitting down with this white therapist, a white woman, and she doesn't know anything about my world personally or professionally. She does now because over the past year, the conversations that we've been having. But she's very dope to me because everything comes from a neutral place. Like I've unloaded on her, and she's literally sat there and went, "Whew." So that lets me know she's listening with the, intent to understand and not just reply.
Right.
And I think she's helped me a lot. Now I'm ready to be pushed a little bit more, so I probably will talk to somebody black now.
Okay.
Just because I feel like, I kind of know what I don't need, so I kind of know what to throw out, but now I need to know what to keep, so to speak, and what new to bring in. So I think she's definitely helped me out a lot, and I still go to her, but I'm gonna start cheating on her.
I mean, it'd be like that.
Yeah. Yeah.
So with anxiety and just obviously suffering for years and not knowing, what do you think that, as far as us media personalities, for people just who have a voice and a platform like yourself, how do you feel that you can continue to spread the word and to break the stigma? Because the big thing that I would love to do, moving forward, because I want to be a mom one day. I want to have that, life, but I'm so fearful to bring a child into this world just because of that. Yes, just because of the world we live in and social media and our surroundings and even like the state of our country. So with that being said, what can we all do, even just as a society, to help break the stigma?
Continue to do what we're doing right now, talking about it. It's so funny, all the terms that I've learned over the past, few months, like eradicate the stigma. I didn't really understand that there was a stigma around it, because the people I used to be around used to talk about it, but then I guess I never used to hear these conversations publicly, so I understand what they mean. And so it's like we just got to keep doing what we're doing right now, having the conversations, normalizing it. When I talk about my chapter in the book, parental paranoia, one reason it's very hard for me to talk about me worrying about my kids is because I don't want to worry about my kids, because I understand the power of my thoughts. And,
right.
I truly believe in the law of attraction, and I believe your thoughts become things. And I believe that the things you want to happen in your life, you should constantly think about and you should constantly talk about. But the things that you don't want to happen, you shouldn't think about and you shouldn't talk about at all. But that doesn't mean those thoughts aren't there. So for me, it was just sharing the feelings that I have when I let my kids out into the world. My daughter's 10 now. My other daughter's 3. My daughter's, going to parties and stuff at 10. And,
yeah.
She goes to school, and it's like she got all these extracurricular activities. That is literally our hearts walking around outside of our bodies. So every day when they, it comes to a point in time you can't just be on top of them all
right.
the time. They gotta go live their life, and you just never know what the world has in store for them. And that right there will drive you crazy. That right there will give you the ultimate sense of anxiety. And you never even understand why our parents were the way they were until you have kids. Now you understand why your parents were upset when you didn't call when you were supposed to be home, or when you stayed out late and you didn't check in, or you just understand why they was on you so much. And yeah, but I gotta share that, because sharing that lets me know that I'm not alone. And I've asked people that before I even wrote this book. I would ask them, I'm like, I asked my wife, you be extra paranoid? Like I be, parental paranoia. I talk to other parents, and they all feel the same way. So that's just a natural anxiety that you're gonna have when you're a parent. But it kind of helps you with everything else, because you just realize that some things are just out of your control. And that's when you just got to remember your serenity prayer, which is, God, grant me the serenity to accept the things I cannot change, courage to change the things I can, and the wisdom to know the difference.
Absolutely. So you mentioned your daughter's 10 years old, and I'm just curious, how are you going to help her navigate through the social media world when she hits that?
She's not getting it.
No?
No.
You're like,
No. I've read stories about other successful people like Warren Buffett and, even Steve Jobs when he was alive, God bless the dead, and Bill Gates. They don't let their kids use social media.
They're smart. I don't blame them.
No, man. First of all, I'm grown as hell, and it has too many addictive properties. I don't know what the hell they doing to these phones that keep us so engaged, and you find yourself just scrolling through Instagram for hours about nothing. And literally, if you have your head down too long, when you lift your head up, it really feels like you just had your head underwater. Like, I don't like that feeling. Like, I hate it if it got too much control over me. And I've never had a drug addiction, so I don't know what it feels like to be addicted to anything, but it feels like we're addicted to social media. I don't want my kids to ever feel that. And plus, I think that social media is just painting this unattainable picture of perfection it's just impossible to reach. And I think that, you don't see anybody's mistakes on social media. You don't see anybody's setbacks. You don't see anybody's losses. Like, it's just everybody's highlight reel. All you see is the dunks and the crossovers. And I think that people are taking that unattainable picture of perfection with virtual reality and bringing it into the real world. And now we're all trying to walk around like we're so perfect. None of us want to talk about our flaws. None of us want to talk about our mistakes, you know.
Like this?
Yeah.
I love it.
We're all so quick to judge people based off things that we probably did just like that or worse. But nobody wants to admit it. Like, we're just leaving people on these islands all to themselves.
Right.
So imagine being 14, 15 years old, watching everybody front like they're perfect on social media. Now everybody fronting like they're perfect in the real world. And as soon as you make that one mistake, you'll feel inferior and probably be like, man, I'm going to kill myself. Seriously. Like, that's why I think a lot of these kids are like committing suicide and stuff just based off this unattainable picture of perfection. Tell kids it's okay to make mistakes. Tell kids it's okay to be wrong. You know what I mean? Tell kids it's okay to have setbacks, to have losses. Like, I learned from everybody's mistakes growing up. Like, the quote I remember so vividly was, smart people learn from their own mistakes, wise people learn from the mistakes of others. So I didn't necessarily have to put my hand on the stove to know that it was hot, because I heard about the mistakes of people around me and I paid attention to that. And I think that we have to continue to be open about our mistakes and our setbacks and our losses, so the younger generation learns. Like, these kids, man, my biggest message to them is, like, don't feel bad when you make a mistake, because everybody else is faking perfections. They're fronting. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like,
perfectly said.
You're fine.
Yeah, no, definitely. I wish I heard that when I was 14 or 15 years old.
Word.
Because that's important. So before you leave, I just wanted to ask you one question. I did hear you tease in the Breakfast Club that you have a movie from your first book that'll be coming out, or inspired by your first book.
Yeah,
is that real? Is that really happening?
Yeah, it's very early, you know. But you know, Black Privilege was a New York Times bestseller, and it is a very prominent film director, a very prominent filmmaker, who has expressed a lot of interest in the book, and he's told me that he wants to do it, and I would love to do it with him. But you know, that's just very, very premature conversations. No paperwork or nothing has been signed.
Yeah.
But the reason I said that is because I know that it will happen one day.
Okay.
You know, but
will this make a cameo in it? Will you talk about your anxiety?
I think it has to, right?
Yeah.
You know, I think that would be a very good through line for it. You know, especially being that I realized at 39 years old that anxiety is what fueled me through a lot of my situations. You know, I learned to use that fear as fuel. You know, so I think that anxiety is definitely a very good through line for any movie about, you know, my life.
Yeah.
You know, but yeah, it's definitely gonna happen.
Well, we look forward to that.
Word. Thank you.
Thank you so much. So, Shook One, Charlamagne the God.
Hey.
Pick it up now. It can be picked up at Amazon, at every bookstore.
Every bookstore, Amazon, Barnes and Noble, Second and Charles, wherever you buy books. I am a New York Times best-selling author.
That's right.
Okay, and I think I'm gonna do it again.
Thank you.